Hi everybody, Tracy Brown. Apologize for the fan above. It's pretty hot here in Florida right now. Today is part two of if I'm wondering if you're restricting or your diet is actually causing your binging. So our last video we talked a lot about how we blame ourselves. We try to fill ourselves up with like water foods and air foods and just not enough food in general, or we end up not getting our needs met past these certain threshold times through the day, and then we end up what feels like overeating. And I would say that sometimes it's really subjective because sometimes, excuse me, sometimes what people feel like is a binge is actually just a decent amount of food, and you haven't had enough to fill those needs, so it's hard to put the brakes on. And so what I thought we would talk about today is, well, okay, so I know all that, what do I do? And so what we first want to do is look at your food. And we talked about this a little in the first video, but it's looking over your day and can you objectively see where you could have eaten more or where you emotionally or mentally held yourself back from getting fully satisfied. That's the first step. And if you don't know how to assess that, then that's where you might need some help from somebody. And so that would take a lot of being really honest about the fact, like if you know much about nutrition, and if you don't, that's okay. Most of my people that follow me or work with me do. They know, like, okay, the average diet for most people is like 2,000 calories a day. That's actually underestimated in definitely a lot of the women I work with. But let's just make that as the average. And if you're like getting to dinner and you're only eating 1,000 calories, the likelihood is pretty high that you're going to do some deprivation-driven eating. And so the goal would be to work towards getting maybe towards the end of the day. And for you, maybe you've gotten in 75% of your energy needs by dinner, or 80% or 85%, depending on the person and how much feels comfortable to eat at night. So that would be goal one. The second part is it interesting how it's like we feel like the only ones that are deserving of compassion or gentleness around this is maybe our little kids. So I would say if you can't be gentle around giving yourself compassion for deprivation-driven eating or binging, imagine that's your actual little one in your life, or your inner little one who just trying to do the best they could with living the culture we live in, or doing the best they could with the emotions that you had at the moment. So I've never seen anyone hate themselves out of stopping binging. So it's more about, can I greet that part of myself that was feeling like they couldn't stop? Can I even like greet that hunger, like, oh my gosh, I'm so starving, or oh my gosh, like I needed a lot of food? Isn't that really interesting? I'm wondering what that's about. Versus like, I'm bad, I'm wrong, I'm gross, I'm out of control, what's wrong with me? And all the blame and judgment. It's not going to help soothe you and bring you actually into your body where you have the solutions in there. And that's what people who do intuitive eating, nutrition therapy or coaching like I do, or other good practitioners out there, you're not going to hear anybody say, suck it up and stop, because that's not how it's going to work for you. Or even doing a lot of like distracting techniques. I do think distracting is good sometimes. To change the subject, to move on, to get outside, do something else. Sometimes that's perfectly what you need. But long term, honestly, if you're not, especially if it continues to happen, and you feel like that, like, well, I thought I was eating more food, and why is this happening? You could be actually eating more food, and you need just a little bit more to bridge that gap to stop the eating. Or it could be something else that you need some more holding and some more attention to. Like I said, after people who work with me have cleared up some of the deprivation-driven eating and eating enough, then we do focus a lot more on what the function is. So you have other ways of meeting those intrinsic needs besides eating. And lastly, I would say that I know this is really hard when you might feel split between I need to lose weight, or I want to lose weight, but I also want to stop binging. And what I can say is that they are definitely at cross purpose, trying to purposely lose weight and stop binging. I've really never seen people ever do that. But what I do see that can bring people some relief and even some success with ending the binging is, you've probably heard this before other places, like taking a time out on the purposeful trying to lose weight. And you've heard of this maybe many times too, with the intuitive eating process. If you, over a period of time, like I have very rarely seen people like immediately and quickly their weight change when they stop binging. A few people, but not often. Most of the time it's a very slow, gradual, like settling, and your body has to really feel safe. Like, are you serious? You're really fully gonna feed me? And then if your main strategy with emotion has been binging and not much restricting, what I find is that you're more likely in that scenario to like lose weight a little bit more quickly. But again, that's not the point. Because if we focus on it too much, what happens is I see people slide back in to try to make it happen a little faster or a little more, or try to eat healthier sooner than they're ready for. They're not ready for that level of like keeping so much close attention to their eating, and we need to really just practice being present with what the needs are. Okay, regardless of what that is. So I hope this little 2-video series was helpful for you. I will be out with more topics, discussion. Want to hear your feedback of what you want to talk about as well. So I'm open to hear your needs, and if you are looking for a little bit more individual help to more efficiently get to where you want to go, which is probably peace with food and weight, then I'd love to hear from you, and we'll set up a time to talk. All right, thank you so much. Take care.